Hello. I feel like that's your favorite part of the episode. Eh? You don't care what happens after that, as long as you can say hello.
It's well timed.
Welcome to the Gabfest.
Please do it nicely, Veg.
Okay. This one's like to sing. Okay, 1, 2, 3, go. Welcome to the Gabfest.
Love it. Well done.
These ones are always angry when I forget to say it or I don't say it properly.
It's our intro. We can't lose our jingle.
I mean,
over here.
you've been asking for a jingle,
So
so.
we've got our own.
Okay, is that the
Innovation.
jingle?
Yes, it's our innovation going here.
It shall be our jingle, okay? Thank you so much for joining us today. I was going to say for and today at the same time. Today for another episode of the Gabfest. We are excited to be full force in studio today.
Yeah.
The past few weeks, one's been
It's the
missing.
reunion.
Now we have a
guys.
full
Yeah,
house.
today we are full
It's
house.
a
So
reunion.
thank you so much for joining. We have Cleo, our co-host that you know. Do you want to say something? Hello, how was your week?
Happy Friday. Happy spring.
Happy spring, you look so old.
I'm still in
man.
black, but yeah,
Yeah, it's fine.
I'm working on it.
And Anka,
It is I.
it is you. How was your week? How was
My
your day?
week was
What
great.
What?
So far, my week has been great. I love the weather, how the weather's just looking up fast, guys. Winter clothes are it's just over. We're done with that now. So guess who's back? Jess is back.
So with that being said, as Jess sits down, we shall introduce Jess being back finally. We missed you last week, man. Last month.
I've missed Gab so much. Like, how's everyone doing?
Good.
Good.
And you?
Yes. Excited.
And today our guest co-host is Micaela. Would you like to say anything about you, who you are, what you do, anything you want the gabbers to know?
Well, thanks, guys. It's really an honor to be on the show. My name is Micaela Andrews Prins. I am a wife, finance manager, soon to be CA. But yeah, it's a topic that I'm really passionate about, and I'm really grateful to speak on it today.
Yeah, that's why I was like, we've been wanting to do this topic for how long now?
No, like since the beginning.
Yeah, but we've just been trying to get sponsors and that's been stopping us. And now we're like, screw the sponsors, we're going on with life. So we are excited to have the conversation today.
Can you tell us about yourself, please? How was your week, Evangeline?
My week was actually quite good, eh? I did washing and washing.
Oh, same. Yeah.
But you know what?
Spring clean reminds me of that as like, what do you do for fun? Oh, washing. Baking.
I literally had so much washing. I think 3 weeks worth of washing. And then Wednesday was that random cold day.
Yes.
And I was like, we don't have long sleeves. And I jumped into washing. But I caught up on series. So
nice.
that was nice because I was washing like this, watching the things, moving to the kitchen to do dishes with the laptop on the windowsill. I was just catching up on life, man.
Nice.
Yeah. But today we are speaking about my period, my contraceptive, right? So I know it sounds very open, but the reason why we put my period, my contraceptive, is because we're speaking about personal experiences and not really medical and there's a nurse telling you use this, try this. But we did put it in the link below. If you do want to find out about the different contraceptives available, there was a show that was on the Insights by Dr. Mary where she describes every single contraceptive on earth, and she even goes into detail about where research is with the male contraceptive, because don't we just wish they could go through this? Eh?
It's their turn. I'm sorry. We did our turn. It's their turn.
It's their turn. So there's no real structure. Why am I struggling to speak today? There's no real structure today. So we're just going to jump in, share experiences, where you at. And the reason why I asked Micaela to come on today is because if you have her on social media, you know this is at least once a week. At least once a week she goes off on, what do you call it? It's not a rant. Or is it a rant?
I think it's a rant.
It is a rant. And and then asking people questions and reposting people's replies, and I always thought it was quite interesting.
Okay.
Is it not working? Okay,
Me
we'll
asking
log
questions.
out and log back in now. But let's go on. And start, I keep thinking my top is back to front. So we're going to jump in. Should we start with contraceptives or period first? Period first, because that
Period.
comes first, right? Just looking very worried, like, oh, I did not know we're speaking about my period today.
Oh, guys, I've had such a, my journey with my period has just been, it's just been awful, during my life. And I didn't realize why until I had to, start seeing a gynecologist. I don't know if you remember, Vanch, but at school, there were days sometimes when I wouldn't be there because my period pains were awful.
Yeah.
To a point where I can't do anything. I need strong painkillers. So a couple of years after high school, I was working one of my first jobs, and then I was standing in Dis-Chem and I just passed out from all of the pain.
Sure.
And my mom said, no, we're going to take you to the gynecologist. Get there. Funny enough, my gynae is the same gynae that gave birth to me. Oh, sorry, I just had to say that. So he said, look, we're going to do a laparoscopy. So we're going to put a camera into your vaginal cavity so that we can see the womb and see what's going on. And then when that laparoscopy was done, he then put me on the pill and said, you're going to be on this pill until you want children. Until you find the man that you want to be with for the rest of your life, then we will take you off the pill when you do want to have children. But until then, you don't go off it. They were checking for endometriosis. I didn't have that. But I had something else. And he wasn't really telling me what it was until now that I'm in my, marriage, childbearing years. And he explained to me that when I was born, my womb did not open fully. There's almost like a wall in between. So I've basically got my womb is like a normal womb, but there's a wall in the middle. So I think it's called Didelphus, or I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but it's like a double, and it happens to I think 1 in every 4 or every 6 women or something like that.
Is that
That's
what was
fairly
causing the
common.
pain?
Yeah.
So apparently, because they said your womb is very enlarged, and they didn't understand. So when they found the wall, apparently it's like the one side of my womb is catching up to the other, and then those contractions that happen when it's your time of the month would just be more intense because both sides of were trying to catch
Double
up.
whammy.
Yeah, so it will cause complications for certain things, but I'm glad that I know now because it just helps you understand, oh, okay, there was once a day, I got my first period, I think, when I was 14. And then a few months after that, there was just this day when I was leaving for church and I just didn't stop bleeding. And it wasn't time for my period and I didn't understand why. So it looks like I had 2 first periods. There's the first one that I had on the one side of the womb, and then there was one that I had on the other side.
Wow.
And
So,
now do
yeah.
you get that where it's twice a month or something?
No.
Is it just your...
No.
So also another question was when you first start your period, it's like that brown color.
Yeah.
Was it like that
Yes.
With the second one?
second one?
So with the first one, it was little dots, and then my mom explained to me, hey, congratulations, your first period.
Who wants to be congratulated for
I'm
that?
confused, why they say congratulations?
My
I
mom
don't
just
understand.
I'm just I'm in pain, what's happening? I don't understand. So then I think it was about a year later or a year and a few months later, something like that. Then I was leaving for church, and then that stuff that you're talking about, but it was just coming out a lot. And my mom had to stay behind with me that day. And I remember her calling my grandmother saying, I don't understand what's going on with Jess. But now, thankfully, after the gynae and all of that journey, now we understand what's going on. And it's more common than I realized, but it does happen to a few women in the world.
But that makes me question, why doesn't the doctor just come out and say it? Do you get what I'm saying? Right in the beginning, as opposed to making you go through this long journey. You question, did they know what they were doing?
And I think it's scary because that's a big stat. 1 in 4 women. That's 25% of all women.
2 of us
And
can have it.
Exactly. And we were speaking about this before, that sometimes you go to a gynae surrounding, the gynecological stuff. And then it's they just see you, they hear your symptoms, and then they prescribe a one fix for everyone, which is usually
Yes,
birth control.
exactly.
Instead of taking the time, running some tests, doing some things to find out what is it that's your problem. Because I think only in childbearing years or when you want to fall pregnant do you actually find out what is wrong with you.
And in some cases, I think then sometimes it might be too late because they've just been
Yeah.
stuffing you with contraceptives throughout the
And if you go to
years.
dermatologists and they're like, oh, just take this
Yeah.
birth
Exactly.
control for your
Yeah.
But
pimples.
I want
And
to
I
know.
think my statistic might be slightly off. I think it's 1 in every 4,000 women, or it was something like that. But it is.
No, that's a big jump, Jess.
Sorry, guys, my stats are completely off. I think my time of the month is coming just now. But it's something like that. It is common, but it doesn't happen to like a lot of women, but it does happen to some. And there are some cases where women have even had like a dual pregnancy. One was there was in like the
on the one side.
on the one side and then on the other side. So you might have had like a child born now and then 3 months later another child born.
I've heard of that, but I always thought
Yes.
that's a story. Always could that actually happen?
It actually
How am I
does
coming
happen.
out
But then
3
how
months
does
later?
how does the other baby not come out is my question when the first one is being
Because you're
born.
pushing and you're not supposed to push.
That means
if
there's
you-
2 placentas.
But
my
surely if
question
you're pushing, both should come out, or
I don't think so. I don't think so.
or maybe they do
because-
C-section.
But even
So many questions.
my question is the umbilical cord, right? Because there's only one umbilical cord.
Actually,
It
you
has
have
happened
twins-
before.
Huh?
If you have twins, how does that work?
It's in one sac.
being
It's in
silly
one
Oh, the
placenta,
cord.
like the amniotic sac. But when you have 2 babies, it comes 3 months after that.
Oh,
You
actually,
actually-
I
Doesn't each
get
child
that, what
come
she's
with a
asking.
cord?
no. Well, actually, they do.
What is that now? I cut off when my baby is born.
I'm laughing because I was also like, I don't know.
see, we do need nurses here.
See, this is why conversations about my period, my contraceptive, woo, we are opening a chapter when it comes to me. So that's my story.
Let's just stick to the period.
Okay,
Yeah, we'll
yes.
do the birth another time when we figure out is your how many cords are there.
Guys, I want to Google actually right now.
You do that while I carry on speaking.
Yes, do your
Okay,
thing.
so I wanted to ask, you were bringing up the thing about, and we were saying you only find it out when you are at the age of wanting kids or something like that, or you're married and you have to go on to, what do you call it, parent planning, and all those things. Do you think, though, it's an issue with brown people? Because I know, I always say, Jess, I was extremely slow in school when it comes to the contraceptives and stuff. And when they spoke so openly about it, and only once I got married, the names made sense. I was like, so you were on this then already.
I think because we were raised like that's taboo. Like,
Exactly.
so
Yeah.
gross.
The
But even with
reason,
us,
the
yeah.
reason why I'm bringing it up is, do you think as brown people, the issue is that we only find out later because we only go to the gynae
when it's there.
when we're married and ready for kids?
Yeah, because the
We use kids.
Yeah.
Kids equals gynae. Gynae equals kids. It's not a whole
and I
woman
think it's,
thing.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's so wrong because even for the first time, the very first time I saw a gynae was when I came back from honeymoon, and I felt violated after that.
Guys, I'm still traumatized from my first and last. You're supposed to go once a year at least, right?
Yeah,
Pap
but
smear.
we weren't raised that way. We were raised that birth control equals you are active.
Yeah.
So no birth control for you.
And
That's how we were raised.
Yeah.
even the scary things like a pap smear, you should actually be going for it from the age of 21.
Exactly.
But imagine you go to your mother and you're 21, you're like, Mommy, I want a pap smear. She's
Gonna
gonna
be like,
Like,
for
what?
What are you doing? And how do you know about these things?
and it's quite sad because
We're supposed
immediately
to
when
be
you talk
knowing.
about these things, it goes into being
It's
sexually
taboo.
active. Yeah.
Jess, you are so ready.
I really wish that, like, you're bringing up something very valid. With me, I went to the gynae in my early 20s because I was having problems. Some women find out that they have fibroid problems that they could have prevented earlier on had they been put on. The reason why the gynae put me on the pill was to steer away from hormonal imbalances that might lead to endometriosis or to stuff like that, or to fibrosis or whatever. And if I remember trying to have these conversations with my friends back then who, like me, were in a church environment, you're trying to do things biblically. You're trying to, but I speak for me and my group of friends, and many of them didn't even know what I was talking about. And the more I would speak about it, now moving into mid-20s, a lot of them, when they got to the gynae, found out different complications. My one friend had a case of fibrosis and had to have a big lump removed, otherwise she wouldn't be able to have children. So the earlier, you don't have to go to the gynae and have a full exam, but just as long as they can do the ultrasound, just to see from a young age, I think even as young as 18, like just to have those checks so that you know that you don't get to your mid-20s and then flip, we need to remove fibroids or you have this issue or whatever. So it's really important.
And if you are sexually active before marriage, you should be going from the get-go because...
Anything can happen.
My mind.
Tell us.
And the way it has been.
Uncle's like, no.
I was like, no, my mind is like, okay.
Going back to the periods.
But I think it's also hard sometimes. Like, I know when I was younger and I went to a doctor, it was really downplayed, like the pain that I was feeling. And I should have gone to a gynae, but this doctor didn't even
they take you
refer
to a
me to a
GP, no?
gynae. Yeah, so I started out at the GP, and she was quite a young doctor. She was standing
Oh,
in
and it's
for
still
my...
a female.
Yes, and she was standing in for my actual doctor. And I told her, like, listen, there's times when I go to the toilet when I'm on my period and I have to hold onto the wall because it's so painful. And she's like, no, just take like a larger dose of Nurofen. And I was like,
gosh.
I know there's an issue, like this is not normal. And I think after that I didn't even want to go back to a gynae because I felt so gaslit. I was like, no, so it's in my mind, I'm not as strong as other women, so I should just endure this pain.
Also, when we were growing up, that was the thing. Like, people will tell you, like, oh, when I was your age, I was crawling with the pain, and I'm still here. You know, it was. That's how we were raised. I mean,
We're not here to suffer anymore, guys.
Exactly. We want soft life.
but even for me, I know I was a late bloomer. So even in my period, I was a late bloomer. I think I was 15 when I got my first period.
What grade are you in when you're 15?
9.
Oh, yeah, that's late.
So, yeah, I was a late bloomer. So what happened was, I bled for like 11 days. And, like, that was normal. Like, because, it's your first period. And then I didn't have it for another 7 months. So it was like, so that was it. I could count on my hands how many times in my lifetime I had my period. So it never comes regular.
Yeah.
Now it's more frequent. However, I only get it a day. So you're like, I remember just when me and Xavier got married, I decided, okay, fine, maybe I should go see a doctor, maybe contraceptive. Not even a gynae. I've never been to a gynae at that stage. And I explained to him it's like 11 days and it's extremely painful and all of that kind of stuff. So he just said, oh, it looks like it might be the beginning stages of endometriosis, and then he put me on.
So casually.
Yeah. Like, I didn't even understand, I didn't understand the magnitude of endometriosis. It is what now with the conference, which is 8 years later, you're like, oh, actually, I was in danger of that. And I mean, 4 months after I was married, I was pregnant. So, like they say, it improves. Endometriosis improves after childbirth or whatever. And I've never really experienced anything except a bit of pain here and there. But, you kind of like, maybe if my parents or my mother took me to a gynae then, but I think colored culture is... No, jy gaan met ander goeie staan as jy daarna toe vat.
So did you struggle to conceive like your second child?
Well, we thought I wasn't. I mean, I didn't even have my period when I conceived Ava, my first child. Wow. So it was like, surprise! Like, it still is. But with the second one, I had a miscarriage in between. And with Ava, with Taya, it wasn't. Like, after the miscarriage, I think it took me about another 6 months. And then I was pregnant again. So it was like, so there wasn't any of that. But I think it makes you think, does the endometriosis, I'm not an expert, I'm just thinking, have anything to do with the miscarriage? How is that linked? That kind of stuff. Questions you have.
So for me, my period was also extremely hectic growing up. I was the fainter.
Oh no.
I was that one always in the school nurse office. Dad picking me up before lunchtime.
I had a fellow fainter and I didn't even know.
I was that one, always in the office because I fainted. Robin always used to carry me through, and I'd be like, I don't know, it's my son. And grudush, I'm out. And that was my constant, I do have terrible pain. I did have terrible pain, but I don't feel like my pain was bad enough to faint. So I'm not sure where the fainting came in, but then you also know I faint for everything. So
What?
Yeah, guys, I don't want to be the one to tell you that Benj is a fainter.
I literally, my head just goes
Like if you see
I'm
blood
lights
or
out.
just random.
anything. I just randomly faint. So I have no idea where that comes from. But on my period, it's so much more. I'm always lightheaded. My first 2 days, I
Aren't
just
you
need
anemic,
to lay.
maybe?
I don't know.
Have
I've
you
never
ever-
tested it?
Yeah, because obviously you're losing blood. So, you know, the fact that you're feeling faint, like for me, I know that like the day before and like throughout and a good week after, which is technically most of my life thinking about it now, I'm just always tired. I'm really always tired. So I've got low blood pressure, but I'm not anemic. So I'm like saying, guys, now give me something to help me feel alive. When like even as I'm sitting, I'm like, look alive.
But that's why they say as women, we only have one normal week in the entire month.
Yeah.
Because it's pre-period, PMS,
is.
actual period,
I mean,
you're
even when-
ovulating.
No, but for real, like my period literally comes for a day. It literally comes for one day, but it threatens for 3 weeks. Like I'm in pain most of the 3
So
weeks.
is it like heavy or like is it just like a few?
Like the half of a day is extremely heavy, and then after
Yeah.
that it's just drying up.
I think a lot of women want that.
Yeah.
So no, I'm not complaining. I'm not complaining. By any means, I'm not complaining. I mean, coming from 11 days,
Yeah.
you know, like that's a big stretch to wind it. But you beg to question something must be wrong because how are you only bleeding for one day?
Yeah.
You know, I've heard of people who bleed for 3 days, and I think that's normal. But one day, really, and then it's like a drip for another day, and then voila, I'm.
We envy that.
Yeah.
I always have you seen that meme where they use that song "Oops, there it is" when you think your period is finished.
Yeah.
And you're like no panty liner, no pad, and then the next day you're like,
Can I tell you
When you
my
put on your
most-
nice undies.
Yeah. Can I please tell you my most embarrassing story of when that happened to me? I thought my period was finished, and I was speaking at an event, and I was wearing white pants, and it was a varsity like induction, welcoming type of thing at a res in the Val.
Oh my god.
I think it was for Northwest University. So my friend came with me. So man, you know, I'm standing there. You know, sometimes if you feel like a little bit of moisture,
Yeah.
maybe it's just like discharges.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm speaking. I just saw my friend get up and say to me, just step behind the pulpit podium thing. And I was like, okay. Then she said to me, I think your period just started. And in my head, I'm like, no, my
I just
period
had
finished.
it. Yeah.
So I stepped behind and you know what I didn't realize? Somewhere in where I was speaking, you know when you can feel audience responses, there was a time when the audience responses stopped a little bit. So there was
'Cause they're
almost
probably
like,
Yeah.
you know. So as I moved behind, I quickly wrapped up what we were talking about. And then my friend and I, we said, okay, thank you everybody. Everyone clapped. As we walked to the side, there was a team of girls and ladies who came with me to the bathroom. And I think that moment made me feel so encouraged that periods are normal. And now it's such a different time compared to like maybe 5 or 10 years ago. There's so much period awareness and like
Yes.
it's my biggest thing that time was, oh my word, there were guys who saw that. But where are the kids gonna come from?
So I also wanted to bring up that topic, right?
Yeah.
I wanted to bring up the side of the men. We always say educate men, they need to know. But it is still so frowned upon when you do educate men. Me bringing this up because a lot of people have a problem with me explaining to my son Isaiah what my period is. Because he's a boy and he's a baby, he's not supposed to know. But my personality is, if I'm you know, one of those ones, everybody's in the bathroom together, you know, mom, dad, brothers, sisters, you come in, I go out, you know what?
Yeah.
And I do
I
the
love
same. She always thinks it's weird.
I'm sorry, I think it's weird because like the encounters that we've had, and they're just having a candid conversation, huh?
Yeah.
Explain this to me.
So that's how we grew up, and it's so normal now for us to walk in and out the bathroom while one is on the toilet or in the bath or something like that. So I do the same thing with my kids, right? So when I'm bleeding, they ask me, Mommy, why is your bum bleeding? And I explain to the point where I can go to toilet and I'm like, oh my gosh, I just started my period, and Scarlett runs to the room to go fetch whatever I need. And or if I'm moody, and then I'll say, Isaiah will say, "Mommy, is your bum bleeding?"
That's funny.
Mommy, is your bum bleeding? And I feel like, as much as a lot of people frown upon it, if I don't make him understand now how normal a period is,
Someone
you
else's
can't
daughter's going to have to
expect
do
him-
it.
But you can't expect him in marriage just to automatically understand what is a
Yeah.
period.
But that's so true, and I think that's a lot of what the stigma, what caused the stigma. Because even growing up, my oldest brother, like, he wasn't allowed to say these things. He wasn't even allowed to see these things. I mean, even the first time I had contraceptive, because of the discharge that I had in high school, so the doctors had to like try to regulate it, and it was, what was it? I think it was Manes or something like that.
You guys are going through the most here in this group.
And my brother, he was simply appalled, and he got to the, when he was, I don't know what he was scratching in my cupboard for. He's like, "Mommy, Uncle's on the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday falls." I'm like, okay. So when I eventually got my period, it was like such a taboo thing. Like, and I went to him and was like, "Look, guess what? And he was like, he was really disgusted at me, like, and don't tell me about those things. But my middle brother, he was like, "Okay, should I get you tampons? What should I get you?" You know, he was that type of, like, even till today, I can send him to get something or whatever. Because for him, it's like, but what's your story? It's just normal. You're supposed to have it. I'll be worried if you didn't.
Exactly.
You know, but I think it was that, oh, no, you're not supposed to see
They
that.
make
That's
you
the
feel
private.
dirty.
They do make you feel dirty.
And I also feel like if it starts at the age where Isaiah is, then, you know, the shame that's connected to it will be taken away. Because it's like, it's not even like urinating that you can control. You do not control your blood flow.
And that's why I say, I do not understand how a condom is free.
Exactly.
But
there's
I
a
have
pad.
to pay for a pad. And the pads are getting expensive.
They are.
10 pads is 53 rand. My goodness.
Yeah, they're expensive. Even tampons, and you're like, so if I'm struggling as a working woman to just keep up with that, you know, how for someone who doesn't? Someone who's in maybe a hostel, or someone who's maybe, you know, they just, parents are trying to make ends meet, they walk to school, whatever.
Homeless.
Yes, and that's why so many girls miss out on school from poorer areas, because they cannot afford pads.
And it's normal. It's something. I'll be worried if girls didn't go through that, like, because that's what shows you, okay, fine, she can bear children one day when she's grown or whatever.
I remember Farrah Fortune has this campaign that she runs about, you know, just education around periods and making sure that girls in rural areas also have access to pads and that type of thing. And one of the things they do is they have workshops with boys to teach them about what periods are. I love there was this one video where they were doing this dance and all the boys had tampons doing this with the tampons. Now, I love being a millennial because you're at the cross section of so many different generations. So we come from the time when it was taboo, then it was less taboo, now where it's just like everyone knows. Like, so to watch that, like, all the different generations in me were having a party. The one was like, I can't believe they're doing that. The other one was like, yes, swing the tampons.
It's so true. We really have the best of both worlds.
Before I change the topic.
Leandra in here saying, geez, ladies, this topic, I'm so ready for it. And wow, can't believe that it just dawned on me how important this conversation is, not just in reducing the age-old stigma, but in preventing lifelong complications. And then Ashadeen says, afternoon, ladies, thank you so much for normalizing talking about this.
Okay, so before we move on to the contraceptive side, right, which obviously leads into period talk as well, I wanted us to speak about, so for me, I find it very interesting, Cleo uses the cup, right?
Yes.
And my
really
first
wanna see
thing
this cup.
when she started posting this cup, I was like, so when you're in the mall, what do you do?
Okay,
How do you wash it?
Also, like, how does it sit right? Like,
How do you put it in?
Teach us, Sensei, teach
I wish I
us.
could have had it like, so it's silicone, right? And it's basically, the point of it is to collect everything and you just reuse it. So I've saved a lot of money in the past.
Yeah, I remember you saying it saves a lot of money.
Yeah.
So when you're at people's house or when you're in the mall, how does this work?
I haven't
Been
actually,
yet.
Okay.
if it's like my first day especially, like I'll avoid like malls and stuff, or I'll change it or like rinse it out before I leave, unless there's like those.
So that goes in.
So
I'm
you-
just asking.
Yes.
Sorry, it goes in, but before we get, can I ask a gross question first?
Yeah.
Nah?
I thought mine
Ask
was
away.
gross.
So I want to know, because you say you have to disinfect it, right?
Yes.
Do we have a machine to disinfect it? Are we putting it in boiling water like bottles? What's
Yeah, you have to.
happening?
You're supposed to boil it, because the one thing that I was not aware, like we all know that periods do not have the best smell, right?
Yeah.
But now this cup is like sitting inside
it's
of
silicone.
you. Yes. So when you take it out, that smell like hits you immediately. So you have to like boil it and clean it and disinfect
and
it.
how long do you keep it in before you obviously clean it out?
It
'Cause I
depends on
like-
your site,
like-
on your flow. Yeah.
Okay, so like like with a tampon, it's like 6 to 8 hours. Then you're supposed to.
I would
get rid of it.
say
Not that I do.
probably
6
every
hours.
4 to 5,
idea.
depending on the day of your period.
Okay.
Also, those kinds of things. If you leave it too long, like you can feel, like if you have a tampon and it's there too long, like it drips.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same
So
thing.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
similar
So it
to
can also
that.
mess.
It's you don't feel it at all though. Like once it's inside,
You
Okay.
put it in like a tampon.
so you have to like fold it. So and
I
then
wish you had it here,
I
because
know.
my
Yeah.
mind doesn't understand how this round thing. How
so,
do you
so
shove
it's
it up
round
there
like
to open?
this, and then you fold it like this,
Okay.
almost like an M,
Okay.
Okay, and then you pop it in.
and then and then once it goes inside, you can feel it like pop open like that.
So,
it's like-
so for the gap, so for
Popping open, I always wondered about, like, does it just stay crumpled and
no,
then
it's just
the
like,
blood
and then
comes
it
on
has
the-
like a little stem at the bottom that you grip when you want to pull it out.
It looks like a baby's tit.
Yes.
okay.
bottle.
So just for the gabbers, we'll post something on the Instagram page just so that you
Yeah,
guys
I think we should
see.
do that. I think
Yeah.
I have something probably on my.
You have a lot on your stories.
archive. Yeah.
Okay. So we'll post that because I'm curious to see.
Yeah.
My ignorant self. We all know I'm the one that lives under a rock. So
So before that, I started using tampons like I think I was 15, 14, because like pads. I just
Even
felt
that was
dirty
a
with
taboo.
pads, and like when you like cough, then it's like
or sneeze.
I think it's the feeling of feeling like a baby. I feel like
like this
felt
whole
I was-
nappy.
Got a whole
yeah.
nappy.
So the thing is, when I started using tampons, it was before I was sexually active, and I don't know if this is what happened, but this is what I assume happened. Like they say before you have sex for the first time, there's that like layer of what's the scientific? Yes, the hymen.
I was thinking about the pop when you said that. I was told there's gonna be a pop. I didn't hear the pop.
So what happened with me is I put it in, and then the string was like on the other side. I don't know how the string got. Say now this is the layer of skin. I put the tampon in here, but then the string ended up on this side. But this side wasn't big enough for the tampon to come out, so I had to like work it. Oh, yeah, the trauma.
To get the string out.
Yes. And then I had another instance where I put another one in and I forgot that I had the other one in. So I took one out and then I felt something there and I was like, okay, what is this?
I need to understand that one because I've heard women say that
Strippers
that's
do
happened.
that.
But
What?
how are
Why?
you not uncomfortable? Yes,
They
why?
put 2 tampons so that they don't mess. Didn't you watch that J-Lo movie?
I did, but I didn't
I
catch
don't remember
that part.
that, yeah.
I also don't remember that one.
But
So
even
watch it again.
if you don't put a tampon in properly, you can feel it for the rest of the day and you're
Yeah.
miserable. How do you fit 2 in there?
I don't know what happened. I can't even tell you what happened.
I'm asking for a friend.
So for me, it was more a thing of for the environment. That's why I started trying to use the cup. Like I wasn't sure I was going to stay on it.
Cruelty free.
Yeah, I just wanted to see. And I was like, okay, this is cool. Don't have to go to the shops every month to buy.
I'm always in a pickle, so maybe I should get something like that.
Maybe just try it. And one thing I need to get into is using panty liners because I do not. And the one thing I'm noticing, like, that a lot of people don't really talk about is like how discharge has like bleach in it.
Yeah.
And it
I
bleaches
was
your
talking
undies.
about- I was
Either
talking
way.
about that and I was asking, is that normal
Yes.
that my undies change color?
I was like, ooh, nice new black undies. Remember I was talking about my new underwear on the show. Now they all have.
No,
I
it's
always ask
normal.
myself, where does that bleaching thing come
Yeah.
from? Like,
What
why
did
is
I
that
eat?
happening?
What did
Yes.
I drink? So I wanted to bring up the part also. So I used pads for a long time, right? Because like I always say, I got married a virgin. I was terrified that feels like a big dick or something. So my mind could never
I cannot
do
deal
it.
with you guys
If
today.
that makes sense. I was
Yeah.
always scared because in my mind I was just like, I'm scared. I'm scared.
Oh,
I'm
can
scared.
I just say quickly? The tampons that I started using, they don't make anymore. They were called OB. I don't know if you guys
Yeah,
remember.
I
so-
remember
They used to have those
yeah.
little gel sachets that you like lubricate the tampon
that's
in.
nice.
Oh, I didn't know
Yeah.
about. Oh, we didn't have
That's
that.
the only
yet.
reason I
Sounds like a
started using.
cigarette to me.
But yes, the OB. That's where I started to.
So then only when I got married, then I was like, okay,
I'm
I
ready.
can try a tampon now.
And how was it?
It was normal, so you don't even feel it. But my thing was, as
Because the
time
psychology in your mind had then been overcome.
yes. So now I'm gonna go slowly into the contraceptive side of it as well, right? So me, I only started contraceptives when about 3 months before we got married, right? Because you're family planning and all of that.
Yeah.
You only want kids 2 years later and whatnot. And I was on the pill, and went off the pill. After my miscarriage, decided nothing. Then got Scarlet. Then got Isaiah, and then nothing. Right?
Grace is
Then
what
I
it's
jumped into. Me and my friend always say, "Pull out game must be strong."
Pull and pray.
Pull and pray. Pee. So then I started the whole journey. I don't want to say a journey because a lot of people tell me it's wrong. I started the whole. What's the day after?
Yeah,
the
don't
morning
say
after.
journey.
Emergency
Yes,
contraceptive.
don't say journey like ever.
I started the morning after journey. Right? So
That's not a journey no one should be on.
I
Yeah.
understand that, but we're speaking now, right?
This is a no judgment zone.
No judgment.
Not
zone.
at all.
I stopped. I wasn't on the pill because I tried the patch, but the patch made me feel so insecure because now, I'm riding, but there's a duck plaster on my stomach.
I love how you have no filter.
And that plaster's not even your complexion.
Wait, so do you have to put it here?
You can put it here or on
your arm.
But now where you gonna go with the big plaster
But
patched
no
on
one's
your
gonna
arm all
think
the
it's like
time?
that. They're just
No.
gonna think it's just.
Wait, so is it a
bruise
fresh
or
one
something.
every day?
No, you
No.
put it once a week, every week.
And it sticks.
It
Yeah.
sticks
Same
at your
It
bath and
really
everything.
So does it have that thing where you wear plaster then it has that like outline that's grey?
The whole thing is a
After that.
specific color.
No, like
No,
after you take it
afterwards.
off.
when you
Yes,
pull it
yes.
off.
It's
So
like the
with
normal
me,
process.
when I had
Oh my
that,
gosh.
I started getting heavy pains.
Oh,
And
no.
then my gynae said it could be starting blood clots, so I should go off it because then my knees were always like lump and they felt like something's wrong, always paining, must always rub it out and everything. Then I was like, I don't want to go on the pill because when I was on the pill, it got to a point where my husband was like, you need to make up your mind now. Your attitude or no babies, because the pill, obviously, it made me extremely aggressive. It made me, you don't even put the pillow in the right place and I'm up your... So it just made me so miserable constantly. The only good thing is nice skin. But other than that, there was nothing good that came out of it, right? Then I tried the whole... every second week, the morning after, you go to
Like,
Duskem.
are you
We do not
tiny
endorse
every
that.
second?
Went to Duskem the 1 week on medical aid. The next one, you go to Clicks because if you go to Duskem again, they tell you you already took it out. And that's where I found myself, right? But then it started making my period smell really bad. So I couldn't do tampons anymore because then the tampons started creating such a terrible smell. And I had to go back to pads. And the minute I changed back to pads, the smell left.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I had a similar situation because I used to shoot like long hours on production and I had to switch from using like pads to then using tampons. And then I used tampons for a few years, but then I developed like a vaginosis, basically where like your bacteria starts overgrowing. And then my gynae was trying to explain to me sometimes it's because the vagina knows how to
see why you
clean
must go to a
itself.
gynae. I still don't know why mine was.
So I had a similar, and then they had to put me on something to basically get the almost that natural bacteria back to normal again. So that's why I've just stayed using pads because I've never had that problem But when I was on using tampons, then I developed that.
That's so interesting.
So
That
it's
is
and it
interesting.
doesn't happen to everyone, because I guess every woman's body is different.
Because now if
I
I
have a
try
gross
a
question,
tampon,
though.
it smells immediately.
Yeah.
I have a gross question though, seeing that we're on the topic of grossness. So, and I'm asking for a friend. So, smell aside and all of that, how was the discharge during that?
During what?
Like the overproduction of the.
Oh, we mean when she was off her period?
No, when you were on the tampons,
Oh.
And the bacteria
there
was hectic.
Yeah, and the bacteria was the overproduction of bacteria. Was it?
So I developed like a slight smell in my discharge, and then I wasn't comfortable with it. And at that time, my gynae is a male,
Were
but
you
he had
married at this time?
no.
I was married, dude.
Guys, the journey just to anyway. Well, that's part 2 of this conversation. So he had a female, her name was Dr. Naidu, working alongside with him. So whenever I see him, he'd be like, no, man, you're just stressing. Every woman worries about the smell of a discharge. But I just didn't, something wasn't right. So whenever I'd go to Dr. Naidu, who works with him, she would say to me, men sometimes don't get it, but I get it, and I'm going to try to help you. So there was this gel that she prescribed. You'd have to put it into like this.
It looks like a tampon as well.
It looks like the tampon
the
applicator. Yeah. So I'd have to almost like push that inside
Yeah.
and then have it
And it's
insert.
this long,
and then,
yeah.
Yeah, and I had to do that for like a week, and then she put me on some tablets, and after that, I never had that problem again.
So-
and I've also never used tampons again.
So my question is, was there overproduction of discharge or no? It was just like, it was discharge, it was just a different smell, but there was
Also
more
didn't
discharge.
look different because there was infection.
Yeah, it looked slightly different, but it's funny
With
that
mine, it looked absolutely normal.
Yeah.
It looked like my normal discharge. It looked like everything was normal. My normal period, my normal everything. But the smell, I
Yeah.
could not.
That's
I was
the-
embarrassed to go anywhere. Ask Anka, there's times when they bend, and I'm like, please don't bend while I'm standing here. Then I walk away, and then pick up whatever you want to pick up, and they're like, we don't smell anything. But it became
Right.
such a conscious thing that you constantly think people can smell you.
And sometimes what I realized with me is that my body is also sensitive to like the soaps that I use. So I had to cut out stuff like with heavy scents, like Lux and
Yes.
all those. So now I only use like Sanex and Dove because somehow they don't cause issues. And to realize if I'm cleaning my, oh gosh, guys, this conversation is so raw. If I'm showering,
Yeah.
if I'm showering, I mustn't put soap and then go into my vaginal area. I must just let the cloth or whatever I'm using just be
Yeah.
with water
Yes.
and then clean out that, because the vagina knows how to clean itself.
Yeah. I mean, even my
Yeah.
girls are 7 and 4. They get infection, so we can only use Dove soap. I can't use baby soaps with them. The Dettol, I think it's and Protex is the worst. soaps
Protex
among
makes
them.
you itch.
But it's crazy because like there's a doctor on Twitter, well she's no longer alive, but she taught us that it's not supposed to smell like flowers down there. And I
Yeah.
think sometimes you think like, okay, especially if you're getting into a certain time, like, okay, I don't
thought you
want
were
it to
gonna say
smell like
Yeah.
Like when you
You
went
don't-
flowers, I was
you don't want it. A vagina needs to smell like a vagina, and that's
us
why
how-
some, you know. So that's why you come and you put these funny things, and it throws your pH off,
Yes.
and that's why you actually end up smelling sometimes, and that's why you actually get VB, vaginal bacteriosis or something like that.
And
Because you go and you buy these funny, I don't want to put brands under, you know, but you buy
tell
these
us. They
funny
need to know.
things.
Don't use
But
it.
don't buy like, you know, obviously everybody's
Different,
different. Every woman is different, but I can't use, I don't even know how you pronounce it, if it's Gynagard or Gynagard.
Gynagard.
Kind of
I
God.
cannot use
I've
it.
actually
Yeah,
never
I
thought about
also
that
felt
because
like
then
I feel like
don't
those
smell too
products are
good.
created to make you keep buying it because
Yes.
they
it makes
get
you
into
used
your
to-
mind. Yeah.
And you get used to it as well. The same with me. Like the best that I can think of that I did put salt in the water once. I mean, that's the prescription they give you after childbirth, and it does help with cleansing the infection or whatever, and not too much, obviously. And then just water. So there's just certain soaps. we just don't do in the house at all. And if we don't have, that one dorm day close to end of the month and you don't have soap in the house, then you shower it off as opposed to getting into a bath. Because I think getting into a bath was the biggest psychology that I had to overcome in my life until I got married. And it was like, okay, maybe this thing is a good thing for my skin. Maybe I should try the bath. But I think that, and the reason why I asked, tell us how it smells, because I was thinking about the candle. We had a show the one day about the candle.
Oh, the vagina candle.
What is that?
Which, who was it that?
Gwyneth Paltrow.
And
the group,
created so we discussed the vagina.
It smells like a vagina.
Oh. I was like, what do you do with this candle?
You light it?
So what about like this, what is it, like Yoni Steaming, or what do they call it?
Apparently, I listened to 702, I think 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And everyone was phoning in about like, can I do like Yoni Steaming? And that lady
What
who
is
was...
that?
They like put like herbs and then you like sit on.
To steam, like Vicks.
Yeah.
You know when you put the Vicks in
Yes,
the
but
house?
with your vagina.
This doesn't sound kosher to me at all.
Because some people want it tighter.
It just sounds like it's going to burn down there.
So that lady was saying that, everybody's bodies are different. While one woman can use Lux and be fine, another woman's going to have problems. One person can do Yoni Steaming and not have a problem. There's somebody else who's going to get a bacterial overgrowth because you're not supposed to be putting things
up there.
So I think it's interesting because I watch a lot of reality TV shows with women. I love it. It's like if I'm watching that, I'm poop tired.
Yeah.
So sometimes on these shows like Real Housewives of wherever, then they've got like all these, this one's going for this tightening and one's going for steaming and all these things, but they never go into like, okay, so did it work for you? Did you have issues?
And
you just
it could
see
just
one
be
episode.
product placement.
Yes. And also apparently it's supposed to help with cramps.
I heard that.
There's supposedly so many benefits, but I've seen also other people say that you shouldn't be putting any kind of anything
In there.
in that area.
Do you want to read quickly before I jump to Micaela?
Yeah, Ashley Dean says pull and pray is real. Leandra says, this is why we love gabbing. And Leandra says, happened to me too. My vajayjay is also sensitive, but I'm grateful that my physician prescribed the correct regimen and explained it properly. And since then, I've never experienced poor feminine health. I wish I was you. You're my hero.
I'm so scared. My gynae retired, so I have no idea where to go.
Fun fact,
Same.
her gynae was also her deliverer.
Also delivered me and delivered my kids.
That was a family heirloom.
So I'm jumping to you now with the contraceptives, right? Just explain to us your whole ranting on Instagram.
So basically, it's just that, I don't like that it's just a prescription for any issue that people have. But let me go into my journey. So I started also 3 months before. I did some research during the year, but then I went to my doctor. I trusted her because she was my doctor for 26 years. So I went to her and I'm like, look, I want to start hormonal birth control and whatever, and I want to start with a copper IUD. And then she said to me, no.
Straight to the real shit.
So I was like, I don't know much, but I know I don't want kids right now. But I was so clueless. But anyway, and then she told me no, because I have a really heavy flow, it's not the best suited for me. And then I was like, okay, then hormonal IUD. And she was like, no, let's try after 2 years and come and tell me if you still don't want kids yet. I don't prescribe this to people who have not fallen pregnant yet. So I was like, okay, cool. Then I started Jeanette. And I was so clueless, guys. Like, I was taking the inactive pill because that's how I started it. And I go home to my sister and I'm like, my PMS is quite gone. And she was like, and then afterwards I realized this was the placebo pill. It didn't even have hormones in it, but I thought that it did something for me. So anyway, moves on. For the first 3 months, I didn't experience any side effects. But then after 3 months, on honeymoon, I'm sitting and I'm at the beach and I'm like, I don't feel like myself. Like, I was so, I don't even know how to explain. I was numb to any emotion. Like, I wasn't feeling happy. I was just irritated.
You're miserable.
I was miserable. And I said to Chad, like, this is not who I am. Chad's my husband. This is not who I am. It feels weird. So I thought, no, it must be like the post-wedding fever, like the stress of the planning and stuff, and that's why, and I just feel like now I'm resting and that's it. And then it carried on, and my poor husband went through the most, like
early
this,
marriage,
like when the curtain wasn't right, and I'd be like, no, and you this and it wasn't me. And eventually in December he sat me down and he's like, this is not you. you need to go back to the doctor. Something's not right. And I said, okay. So I went, and that was when I was introduced to a hormonal balancing supplement. And people don't tell you this, but if your hormones are out of balance before you start birth control, you're going to experience some of the most severe side effects when you do start birth control.
Why is nobody telling us this?
Exactly. I didn't know that my body was actually estrogen dominant, and that was, because I bleed heavily, I experienced some really bad cramping. But now I'm putting synthetic estrogen into my body. So I'm worsening things. So apart from the way I felt mentally, I gained 10 kilograms in the space of 7 months. That is like crazy, because I was doing nothing different except that I was on birth control. Another thing that was like weird for me was I knew that I had stretch marks because I was gaining weight so rapidly, but the stretch marks were a color I had never ever seen before. So then I googled it, and that was because my body had way too much estrogen in it. And this is things that people don't tell you. They just go and you're like, okay, let's put you on to birth control. And I was so excited to start birth control because it was like, no, it's going to help with the bleeding, it's going to help with the pain. But I didn't know about
and you can choose your 3 days.
And then I was like, and now I'm at a point where I'm actually going to see a homeopath to do a full analysis, because I want to sort this thing out holistically.
Yes. Oh, I
and
love
I
that.
think, sometimes, and I'm just like, I wish that I learned instead, like, LO was a good subject. I'm glad I learned about peer pressure, but I wish I learned. I wish I learned about like the hormones that are made up in your body. Like I wish someone had told me that.
Me trying to figure out what LO is.
Life orientation.
I wish someone had told me that you shouldn't be bleeding through a tampon, through a pad. You shouldn't be messing on your period. You shouldn't be holding walls when you have a pain.
And this is you going to the doctors. Years of you
Going to the doctors, exactly. And I wish that someone had told me. But since I started the hormonal supplement with my birth control, like literally it's been so easy.
What is it, a tablet?
So it's 2 capsules that I take every day. It's not artificial hormones, it's just supplements. So there's stuff like ashwagandha in there, there's inositol.
I saw that on TikTok.
Yes. So you see,
Your doctor, not Dr. Google, Dr.
and
TikTok.
I actually love TikTok because that's what made me realize that I could actually be like, suffering from this anxiety, this aggression, this irritability because of the pill.
So is this like over-the-counter stuff, or can you just find it in the aisle?
So this is this is actually a brand. It's called Kiko Vitals, and you just order it from them. So it is a bit pricey, and that's why I'm so passionate about like, I even said like I wish to leave corporate one day and start this hormonal balancing thing so that it can be made affordable to people who can't afford these things, because there's people who are suffering who can't afford to buy these things.
And if you do it, please do talks and
No,
stuff, because I don't know these things. I didn't know that.
Things.
Because I mean, when I went on the birth control, the tablet just made me nar.
Yes.
Like it's first week,
Yeah,
I was
same.
like, I'd rather be pregnant than do this. And I'm not a person who'll take pills religiously. Then I went to see, well, I didn't go to see, I just told the doctor what I wanted. And then I said I want the depot because I didn't want children. And
I tried that.
The
Just
depot is
made
the
me fat.
worst.
What is that injection?
It's the injection, and I did it because, yes, I wanted to gain weight, but I was like, I'm really not trying to get pregnant here. The challenge is that I took 1 shot, and then I bled throughout the 3 months. Every day I bled throughout the 3 months. And I was like extremely hungry and extremely moody.
From 1 day to
Like, I
3
was
months.
yes. I was like
You-
extremely irritable. Then Xavier told me, you're not doing this because I can't take it. And then I went behind his back and I took 2 shots.
Oh no,
I took 2 shots. So what that then did is I ate as much. I was extremely irritable, but I had to keep my mouth shut half the time because he wasn't allowed to know that I took it. And then I didn't have my period for like 9 months. And after the 9 months, I had extreme hair loss.
Sure.
So, yeah. So it was like they don't tell you that. You go find that out.
But that's
on
also
Google.
my thing, though. You said what you want.
Yeah.
There's no form of testing.
Testing.
There's no form of can you
Yeah.
do this? Can you do it? Even with going to the pill, you go to the gynae and you say, I want to start the pill. Then they just sit there and they're like, your favorite is yes. Do you want to try? Yes.
Yes, or Yasmin, or Yasmin Plus, or...
Yeah. So then you just go and you take it.
Exactly.
And
there's
I
a
had 2
standard-
boxes there that I just never use. I'm like, yo, you know what, I got that.
Exactly. There's a standard checklist for every woman. And from this conversation, you can see that none of us have experienced anything similarly. So how can we have that standard
Exact same,
checkbox?
exactly.
That doesn't make sense. And I understand that it would involve money because our healthcare system, to get the answers you want, you have to pay quite a bit. But I would rather invest in that than go your whole life. And like I said, like people, I even went to a doctor and I was like, look, this is what's wrong with me. I think I might have endo because I have all the symptoms actually after the conference. And then she was like, no, endo is only a problem when you want to fall pregnant. And I was like,
What?
Explain.
don't.
So in the 3 years before you want to
don't.
fall pregnant, it's not an
Exactly.
issue. So
I'm like-
we're only going to deal with it once you want to
Then-
fall pregnant. But then it's too late.
Then it's too late. And I'm like, you see, so it's just the mindset
Do you
around
think,
all
though,
of this.
our gynaes / doctors has lost the place of compassion in their field and is now just really going with the what makes money?
I think it's important to find a gynae where if you feel like it's not working, then change it.
Yeah.
And
Do
we
you know
often
how much
feel...
you pay for the gynae?
I understand.
That's
Trust
$10,000.
me. I know.
So imagine I
know.
come to you today, tomorrow I must go find someone else, and the day until I find someone that's good. When
Sadly, there's no like one formula. Unfortunately, let me give you an example.
Like therapy.
My friend fell pregnant with that IUD, and it didn't shift.
I know a lot of people.
It didn't move. It stayed in place, and she still fell pregnant. I know another lady who's much older. Years ago, she was on the IUD. Her daughter was born with that thing in her hand. Like,
Yeah,
Tree.
I know of a lady who has 5 children today, and her middle child was born with it in her hands.
you see, and that gynae was. I remember my friend telling me. I think something about the gynae saying, or not apologizing, but just saying, "Well, looks like you're pregnant." And in my mind, I was thinking, but why? If you feel like something is not working for you, or if something is not, it does take a lot of money, and it's not money that we have to play with. But sometimes instinctually, like with you, Micaela, you could feel with the first things that you had tried that something's not right. And if that's the case, try to move to somebody else who might be able to assist you. And now you're in a position where you know so much more and you're able to take more control of your body. Another thing that we don't, and I'm in no way against any medical professional anywhere, but that compassion thing is so important. Are you listening to what I'm telling you about my body? I know my body because this has been my body since I was born. All these changes I'm feeling, these things that are happening to me, do you care, or are you just prescribing the same box that you gave to Micaela, to Vange, to Anka, to Cleo, So it's very tricky, but if instinctually you feel, I need to go to someone else, then try. Maybe ask a friend, if they've had a good experience with their gynae, and maybe see if you can. But I know it's not easy, like you're saying.
But that's the reality when it comes to medicine and going to a doctor. Second opinions are important. I know of people who've lived with something that some doctor said diagnosed them with, and then years later it's like, oh,
was
but you
never
never
true.
had that, and you've been taking all this medication. So I think second opinions are very important, especially when it comes to a specialist. We do tend to trust the first person that we get to. The challenge, I think, for me and Vange is because we just trusted this one guy, and he was really good. I mean, he delivered our kids in a time where C-section is a big thing. He'd go the extra mile. He came in like 3 a.m. I had a scare, and he said, no, you look fine. We don't have to do a C-section. And the inside information I had at that time was that most doctors, they opt for a C-section because they can schedule it during working hours. So if you are against it, you'll just find out it's an emergency. Oh no, the baby's in distress. Meantime, they've already scheduled it long ago.
Yeah, I've been hearing a lot, like there's
Yes,
been like
the
an
thing.
influx of emergency
But also,
C-sections.
please don't take away that there is actually emergency sections. Don't now go lose your baby just for the sake of I want to give natural birth.
Yeah.
That's true. So with our gynae, he would say, it doesn't look like it, but we can try. And then he'll try. And if he says, okay, fine, it's not happening, then it's an emergency. but sadly he's retired. So I'm on the hunt for a gynae who, you know, that I can trust, because the inside information, it kind of makes you paranoid, like, you look suspect, you look suspect.
How are we feeling about male gynaes?
My gynae
Was
was
a
a male.
And,
So was mine.
and you guys are just like,
Is there female gynaes?
I went to a female, but she
It is.
injured me.
You see?
Yeah.
You see? I mean, I'm sure he's seen so many. Like, he's
He's not gonna list yours now.
I think what made me comfortable with my gynae was because, one, my mom was comfortable with him, and two, because in every examination, we're never alone. There's always a female there. If it was not the other doctor who was working with him, then it's the nurse, the female nurse. So I was never in a situation alone, because I was also very nervous. I'm not gonna lie. And if I think about the things my gynae has seen before my husband even saw it, like, it is quite invasive. It is quite sensitive. I used to postpone my appointments. I never wanted to go, not because of I was afraid of him, but just because it is that sensitive.
yeah, you feel violated, even though that's not what the person
For
intended.
me, it's not even about that. My fear is the pain. When that
Yeah.
silver thing just opens,
You're like, the first time I went through that, my eyes, I just said my eyes popped out.
when that silver thing just goes, pow,
The
I
tongue.
feel like I go, ah, and all you hear is relax. Relax. I was like, y'all am I supposed to relax right now?
Yeah, that was when we came
Can I read
back.
the comments quickly before we do our closing?
We have none. That's what.
Alright, wait. There's ease. Okay, so Andrea, I think, says any recommendations on something natural. I think you did do that a bit now.
Yes.
And then Ashadeen says again, ladies, I literally just started the pill again this week. Now rethinking this decision. And then Veronique says, my gynae doctor, I'm not sure how you say that, Pule, brought all three of my kids into the world. He truly listens and gives good advice, but also makes me so comfortable each time I go there.
That's what you want.
So, in closing, I think that there's still so much we can touch on.
Yeah, it's a whole day gap.
It's a
Bring
whole
out the
day
tea and
gap.
snacks.
But I would say that it's very important what you're saying. Know what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And like we said, there is the episode that's linked in the description, where it is an actual gynae who is discussing the different contraceptives and everything, and she says nothing is 100%,
Yeah.
and the best is the pull and the pray. She says that's not even 100%, but it's your closest, because if you don't pull in time,
Pray really hard.
really hard. So what I also wanted to, what did I want to say now? I even forgot. Oh, what I also wanted to bring up quickly, Lee, if you don't mind, I do think it's an important factor though, even though we're going over time, just to bring it up quickly, if you guys can put your input, is the fact of how the gynaes quickly put you on the pill and then tell you wait until you're ready for birth. But they don't explain the implications of will you be able to fall pregnant because of the pill. So I have at least 5 friends who is all in their late 30s still waiting to fall pregnant, though they married 10 years, though they married 8 years, because they were on the pill for too long and now they can't fall pregnant. So what's your guys' take on that? What's your thoughts about it? Because at the same time, we're going to the gynae for the pill is there for your skin, the pill is there for the cramps, the pill is there for hormones, the pill is there, and you're on it from 14 years old, you're on it going up whenever you started your period, and they don't tell you if you have to be on it for more than 5 years, you can not fall pregnant possibly. What's your thoughts on that as well? Because when you go on the pill, they don't tell you this is it's safe to be on it for less than 3 years for you to fall pregnant. Anything more than that, it might be a problem.
I think people need to have a confidence about these things. I just think more education is what we need, because even like I'm 30 years old and I learned so much today from this conversation and just listening to other people's stories. So yeah, I would just say more education and trust your body. Like if you feel like something is not right, like go get it checked out, as expensive as it is.
Yes.
I think with me personally, I was in the fortunate position where my gynaecologist told me this is the return to fertility rate. Like it's 3 months, 6 months. How long are you? My doctor, he was a GP, however, and he asked, how long are you planning on staying on it? And he didn't explain that you might not return to infertility. So he just explained that this is, for the beginning stages of endometriosis. Get 3 months prescription, and then we'll take it from there. So he did ask, take that and did checkups. And then after my Ava, my first child, the gynae did tell me she's the one who, however, is in the link, Dr. Mary Adam. She asked, and then she'd say that this is the return to fertility rate. However, it's not. Everyone is different. It could be different for you. So I was in the fortunate position. However, very few doctors are passionate about what they do, so they go the extra mile to explain to you every single thing in detail.
I think, you know what, like I was trying to do some research yesterday, and I saw that the medical field has actually dismissed that birth control is actually a cause of infertility. Yes, the rate to fall pregnant again is obviously that rate you're speaking about now. But I think what I'd encourage people to do is start a hormone balancing supplement when you start birth control, because then when you're ready to conceive now, there's not these excess hormones that have to be worked out of your body first.
Yeah, for some people that's has to take the year break before they can start trying.
And then you start funny things to get, now to balance your hormones again so that you're ready to conceive. So I think I'd start that when you start. I wish I did that. Start that when you start birth control, so that by the time you're now ready to go off your contraceptives and fall pregnant, there's not a lot of work that still needs to be done after that.
Can we link that product somewhere on the page? Or
If
we'll do that.
I'll definitely do that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I read the same things about the whole notion that, like you were saying, you being on the pill is now like really putting you at risk for infertility and all of that. So I think I'm with Cleo as well. It's so tricky. Like there are different medical schools of thought. There are different studies, there are different clinical trials. There's all these different information. But I think I'm with Cleo as well, that it's just so important to get more information, because you can be talking to friends and then you can have 10 friends who say this. You can be speaking to the medical experts, they say this. So it's quite tricky. And I think
even just talk to your friends. Like it's not a weird topic.
But I just also wanted to add, as much as we do research and things, we also need to keep in mind what the doctors sell to you is not always 100%, because if it's making money, that's the narrative I want to, because I'm going to be honest, I'm going to be flat out, and I could be wrong, but I know too many people who can't fall pregnant after being on the pill since 16 and they're in their 30s. So you can't tell me it doesn't play a role. So for me, I do really feel like if you do also go to Google, take it with a pinch of salt. Look at COVID. They're saying there's going to be another wave end of September. Why did nobody die during this whole time? We didn't have masks on. It wasn't on the news and all of those things, and now all of a sudden they want us to go back to masks in September because they think there's going to be another wave. So there's certain things that you must seriously take with a pinch of salt in what, especially for me, doctors. I have a lot of family members that also I feel doctors screwed them over, but that could still be alive today. And for me, it's like, one of the, I understand you saying that, but enough evidence shows that there's different outlooks, and now the pill being the number one, what would the word be that's going over the counter? Like like your Panados and stuff. The pill is one of those everyday things that people come in for. It's an industry that's booming. So be careful also what you want people to make you believe in order to make their pockets full. So
do your own research. I mean, there's so many reviews on certain things.
YouTube, I believe in YouTube. YouTube, I believe more than doctors. You tell me what happened to you, what happened. Okay, 9 out of them said this. Go away.
And then you can make an informed decision by yourself. Yes, we tend to trust doctors because we were told that no doctors, they know everything. Reality of the matter is we're in 2022. There's so much information out there that we can...
Sorry. I laughed at the comment.
Go.
Sorry, I was. Lee says, "Hey guys, remember Doctor from Our Father documentary? Remember we did it on the show.
yeah.
So be careful." And then
man.
this thing is being a woman is beautifully. I can't even see. Interesting thing. Then this is exactly my concern of the poll. I haven't been on it for 4 years and don't want to take the risk as I'm also in my 30s. So, thank you. Was all your advice, Micaela? Thank you so much for joining us today.
This was fun.
It was
Yeah.
fun. I know it was First Fridays, but I'm over the First Friday themes of having too many topics. We never finish our topics because we go too far in it. So if you guys are okay with our one topic, even on First Fridays, I'm very okay with that. So thank you so much for joining us. Thanks, Jess, for joining us yet again on a First
I missed
Friday.
you guys. I missed you
We
guys so
really
much.
appreciate your time and your efforts to
All
be here
good.
with us.
Oh, good nerd.
You need to tell Disney that's our time, Disney. Disney, Gabfest comes first. I'm sorry, Disney. And thank you so much, Cleo, yet again
Thank
for
you.
gracing us with your presence.
I missed the show last week.
Yeah,
I missed
and
it.
Angst, and we had so much fun last week. Basani was like eating.
Yeah.
Is it?
Oh, she was on
You know what?
Go watch her.
On that note, it was so sad that we were speaking about mental health on the show the Friday, and then Sunday you were preaching about mental health, and Sunday morning my cousin in the States committed suicide. And you realize the depth and the intensity of how people really are struggling with it. You know, you try to do as much, but there's just, you can never do enough. It's something that you really need to constantly speak about. But yeah, sad note, sorry, moving along.
So thank you so much for joining us for another Gabfest. And we hope to see you guys next week again. And hopefully, I almost said Muki, sorry. And hopefully, Micaela can join us some other time and maybe dive in deeper, you know?
Yeah, can we have snacks for that one, please?
Yes. We will
And
do
samples
so.
of everything.
Yeah. And we'll do we were talking about can you guys, Lee, can you hear this on the live?
Yes.
We'll have a how do you say?
ASMR.
ASMR.
I even took off my headphones.
Thank you
not
so
a thing.
much for joining us. See you next week. Goodbye.
Bye.